Hello everyone, and welcome to Reading with Mrs. Adams. I'm Mrs. Adams, and today I have 3 books and 2 poems all about penguins. The first book I'm reading is called Penguins by Gail Gibbons. Now this is informational text, also called nonfiction, and that means it's just filled with interesting facts all about penguins. Let's dive right in with Gail Gibbons' Penguins. Penguins by Gail Gibbons. Penguins by Gail Gibbons, Holiday House, New York. For Jeffrey and Ken Goldfarb. Special thanks to Jennifer, Gail, and Diane DiNapoli of the New England Aquarium, Boston, Massachusetts. Here come the penguins, straight and tall. They walk with a waddle, yet look stately and dignified. Some kinds of penguins. There are 17 different kinds of penguins. The smallest is the little blue penguin. It is about 1 foot or 30 centimeters tall. The biggest of all penguins is the emperor penguin, standing almost 4 feet or 120 centimeters tall. All penguins have black or bluish-gray backs and white bellies. The patterns around their necks and heads are what make them look different. Some have colorful patches, others show off brightly colored crests, but they all have the same basic body shape and characteristics. Here's the emperor penguin, the macaroni penguin, the gentoo penguin, the king penguin, the chinstrap penguin, the Galapagos penguin, it's right here, the little blue penguin, also called fairy penguin, right here, the rockhopper penguin, and this is a crest, the Magellanic penguin, yellow-eyed penguin, the African penguin, also called jackass or black-footed penguin, and here's the Adelie penguin. Now these are just 12 of the 17 penguins that are found in the world. And these are the characteristics that all penguins have. They all have a crown, an eye, a neck, a back, a tail, webbed feet, a leg. They all have 2 legs, and they're also pretty short. This is one of their wings. They have 2. Their belly, and the breast, and the throat, and the beak or bill. That's this part right here. All penguins are found in the southern hemisphere. So this is a picture of the Earth, and this is the equator, and it's an imaginary line that goes around our planet Earth. This is the North Pole, and this is the South Pole. So this area here, all around the Earth, is called the Southern Hemisphere. Any area that is south or below the equator is considered the Southern Hemisphere. The Adelie and emperor penguins never leave Antarctica. Others live in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, South America, and the Galapagos, and many other islands. So this is a legend. A legend basically tells you where you're going to find things on a map. So the Adelie penguin, if you look at this little yellow dot, you will see that Adelie penguins are found all around Antarctica. The African penguin, also called the jackass or black-footed penguin, is found right over here in South Africa. And the chinstrap penguin is this darker orange, and it's found right here in Antarctica. The emperor penguin, this bright red dot, is found in It looks all in and around Antarctica. The Galapagos penguin is found in the Galapagos Islands. The Gentoo penguin is this pink color, and it looks like it's here in the Indian Ocean and also on the islands off of South Africa and in the Atlantic Ocean off of South America, here and here. It looks like there's also some that are right over here off of Antarctica. And now the king penguin is this bright turquoise dot, and it looks like right here just near Australia, the Indian Ocean, South Africa, Atlantic Ocean. That looks about it. Then we have the little blue penguin, also called the fairy penguin, and they're found right here in New Zealand. The macaroni penguin is found right here on the islands, actually here in the Indian Ocean off Australia. It's the bright green color. And here as well, South Africa, the Atlantic Ocean here near South America, and the islands that are found here. And I think that's it. The Magellanic penguin is found right up here off of the coast of South America, and I believe that's it. And then the rockhopper penguin is found right here in the Indian Ocean, South Africa, and I think that might be probably islands right up here off of South Africa too. And then the yellow-eyed penguin is found right here in Australia and New Zealand. And that's it. So again, this is the legend, and if you look at the different colored dots that are by each penguin named, you'll be able to look at the map and know where you can find those penguins. Penguins are birds, but they lost their ability to fly millions of years ago. Over time, they began to spend a lot of time hunting for food in frigid waters. Their wings changed into powerful, rigid flippers for swimming. Penguins have sleek, smooth bodies that glide easily through the water. They are excellent swimmers and divers. Larger ones can swim faster than 25 miles or 40 kilometers an hour. The emperor penguin can dive deeper than any other bird, about 1,500 feet or 450 meters. Groups of penguins may stay at sea for weeks at a time. They leap in graceful arcs through the water to grab breaths of air. Penguins feed underwater on krill, fish, and other sea creatures. Their natural enemies are fur and leopard seals, sea lions, sharks, and killer whales. So krill is the small shrimp-like creature, and much smaller than this. They've enlarged the picture of the krill, and they're really teeny tiny, and that's what penguins eat, as well as other fish. And their natural predators are the sea lion, the fur seal, the leopard seal, shark, and killer whale, also known as orca. When the penguins want to leave the water, they can leap up as much as 6 feet or 1.8 meters onto a rocky shore or iceberg. They climb rocks easily, hopping from one to the other. Sometimes penguins speed over snow and ice by dropping onto their bellies and sliding. A penguin's many feathers are small and stiff. They form a warm and waterproof covering. In really cold places, penguins have an extra layer of long, downy feathers underneath. They also have thick layers of fat to keep them warm. Once a year, many penguins come together to form colonies called rookeries. It is time for the penguins to mate and raise their young. At this time, they make loud croaking and trumpeting sounds. Most of the time, penguins are quiet. What a noisy place a rookery is with all the harsh penguin calls. There can be hundreds, sometimes thousands of penguins in a rookery. They have no trouble finding their mates. So this is the male and the female. While courting, they chase each other. Sometimes they hold their wings away from their bodies and hold their beaks up high. Usually the same pair mates and raises its young together. It is time to build their nests. Some penguins make their nests in burrows or rocky crevices. Others build nests in the open using sticks and grasses. Some arrange small stones in a circle. The two biggest penguins, the emperor penguin and the king penguin, don't build nests. So this is an Adelie penguin, and they are gathering rocks to form their nests. But the emperor penguin and the king penguin, that's pictured here, they do not build nests. Soon after the nest is built, it is egg-laying time. Most penguins usually lay 2 eggs. While one parent keeps the eggs warm, incubating them, the other one searches for food. Incubation can last 30 to 60 days depending on the kind of penguin. The penguins fiercely guard the eggs and their nesting territory. King penguins and emperor penguins lay only 1 egg. The female quickly passes her egg over to the male. He carries the egg on top of his feet. The egg is kept warm by a flap on his belly called the brood pouch. He carefully waddles around short distances without dropping the egg. During incubation time, the female swims out to sea to feed. So here are pictures of the emperor penguins. And the female lays the egg and she quickly passes it over to the male. And they each have a brood pouch. And this is a picture of the brood pouch. And both male and female, as I said, have a brood pouch. The male emperor penguins gather together in the cold, dark polar winter. The temperature can get as low as -60 degrees Fahrenheit or -51 degrees Celsius. They protect themselves by huddling close together, constantly moving from the inside to the outside of the group and back to the inside to stay warm. During this time, they don't eat. They fast, living off stored body fat, and can lose up to 45% of their body weight. After about 65 days, the egg hatches. The female returns around this time. It is her turn to take care of the chick. She tucks it under her brood pouch to keep it warm. Then the male emperor penguin is free to swim out to sea to feed. The chick weighs about 11 ounces, 308 grams, and is covered with gray, soft down. The mother has food in her belly. When the chick is hungry, the mother throws up or regurgitates a meal for it. And this is a chick. And these are all emperor penguins, females, with their chicks tucked inside the brood pouch to keep them warm and safe. When the father returns, both parents take turns feeding and keeping the chick warm. The chick grows. When it's about 8 weeks old, it weighs around 4 pounds or 1.8 kilograms. Now the chick is too big to stay under its parents' brood pouches. So you can see they're getting quite tall, and they've gained a lot of weight, and they're much bigger. And the chicks begin to gather into groups called creches. They huddle together to stay warm. When the sun shines, they scurry around, getting stronger and practicing their balance. So this is a creche or a group of penguin chicks. When a parent returns, it calls with a cry only its chick knows. The chick rushes to its parent. Mealtime! The chick is fed one huge meal every few days. It takes time for the parents to make each trip out to sea for food. All penguins are raised in similar ways. When the chicks are 3 to 10 months old, they begin to lose their gray down and grow adult feathers. Now they are called fledglings. So you can see the pictures of the fledglings, how they've lost their gray down feathers and they're beginning to get their adult black and white feathers that are much stiffer. Off they go to live on their own. They learn to hunt and survive without the help of their parents. In about 4 years, they will return to raise their own young. At one time, the number of penguins was declining. Eggs were harvested and penguins were hunted for their skins. Their fat was boiled down to make oil. Today, penguins are in danger. Sometimes oil spills coat their feathers. Overfishing reduces their food supply. They get tangled in fishing nets. Tourists can do harm to colonies of penguins by disturbing them. Now there are laws to help protect them. People work together to help penguins survive in our modern world. Some areas have been named penguin sanctuaries. Penguins can be found in zoos and aquariums. People working there care for the penguins in a clean, safe environment. It is fun to watch penguins play. Penguins, penguins. The first penguins lived about 40 million years ago. Prehistoric penguins stood about 6 feet or 180 centimeters tall. King penguins can live to be 20 years old. The largest penguin is the emperor. It can weigh about 90 pounds or 40 kilograms. The smallest penguin is the little blue or fairy penguin. It weighs about 3 pounds or 1.3 kilograms. There are 17 kinds of penguins. The 5 not illustrated earlier in the book are the erect crested penguin, the royal penguin, the Fiordland penguin, the snares crested penguin, and the Peruvian penguin. So this is the Fiordland penguin found in New Zealand, the snares crested penguin found in New Zealand, the erect crested penguin has kind of a mohawk haircut, is found in New Zealand. The Peruvian penguin is found off the coast of Peru and Ecuador, and the royal penguin found in south of Australia. And that is the end of Penguins by Gail Gibbons. The first poem I'm reading today, boys and girls, is called Penguin. Penguin. The penguin's a bird that cannot fly, but can swim like a torpedo. And on the ice it looks so nice, dressed in its own tuxedo. The next book I'm reading is called The Emperor's Egg. This is written by Martin Jenkins and illustrated by Jane Chapman. Now this is also nonfiction or informational text, and Martin Jenkins shares fascinating facts about the emperor penguin. And Jane Chapman's illustrations are realistic and delightful. I hope you enjoy The Emperor's Egg. The Emperor's Egg by Martin Jenkins, illustrated by Jane Chapman. There are 17 kinds of penguin, but the emperor is the only one that breeds in Antarctica in midwinter. The adults arrive at their breeding areas, often more than 100 miles from the open sea, in late autumn. A few weeks later, the female lays her single egg and returns to the sea leaving the male to keep the egg warm until it hatches a couple of months later. At first, the male and female take turns caring for the chick, but soon it is big enough to be left while both parents go fishing for its food in the sea. By the time it is 4 months old, the young penguin's coat of down has been replaced by adult feathers. It now also sets off for the sea, where it has to start taking care of itself. For James, John, Steve, Tim, and Tony, and all the other dads, MJ. For Mom and Dad, from egg number 1, JC. The Emperor's Egg, by Martin Jenkins, illustrated by Jane Chapman. Candlewick Press. Down at the very bottom of the world, there's a huge island that's almost completely covered in snow and ice. It's called Antarctica, and it's the coldest, windiest place on Earth. Antarctica. The weather's bad enough there in summer, but in winter it's really terrible. It's hard to imagine anything actually living there. But wait, what's that shape over there? It can't be. Yes! It's a penguin. It's not just any old penguin either. It's a male emperor penguin, the biggest penguin in the world. And he's doing a very important job. He's taking care of his egg. Male emperor penguins are about 4 feet tall. The females are a little smaller. He didn't lay it himself, of course. His mate did that a few weeks ago. But very soon afterward, she turned around and waddled off to the sea. That's where female emperor penguins spend most of the winter, swimming about, getting as fat as they can, eating as much as they can, and generally having a very nice time, as far as you can tell. Emperor penguins eat mainly fish, squid, and tiny shrimp-like animals called krill. Which leaves the father penguin stuck on the ice with his egg. Now, the most important thing about egg sitting is to stop your egg from getting cold. Inside the egg, a penguin chick is starting to grow. If the egg gets cold, the chick will die. That means it has to keep off the ice and out of the wind. And what better way to do that than to rest on your feet and tuck it right up under your tummy, which is just what the father penguin does. Remember, this is called the brood pouch. And that's how he'll stay for 2 whole months until his egg is ready to hatch. Can you imagine it, standing around in the freezing cold with an egg on your feet for 2 whole months? Female emperor penguins lay 1 egg in May or June, which is the beginning of winter in Antarctica. What's more, there's nothing for the father penguin to eat on land. And because he's egg-sitting, he can't go off to the sea to feed. So that means 2 whole months with an egg on your feet and no dinner, or breakfast, or lunch, or snacks. I don't know about you, but I'd be very, very miserable. Luckily, the penguins don't seem to mind too much. They have thick feathers and lots of fat under their skin to help keep them warm. And when it gets really cold and windy, they all snuggle up together and shuffle off over the ice in a great big huddle. Most of the time, the huddle trundles along very, very slowly. But sometimes when the penguins get to a particularly slippery slope, they slide down it on their tummies, pushing themselves along with their flippers, always remembering to take care of their egg and trying hard not to bump into each other. Even though the males keep their egg tucked up right under their tummies, when they slide, it sometimes rolls out and breaks. And that's how the father penguin spends the winter, until one day he hears a chip, chip, chip. His egg is starting to hatch. It takes a day or so, but finally the egg cracks right open, and out pops the penguin chick. Now the father penguin has two jobs to do. He has to keep the chick warm, and he has to feed it. The chick is only about 6 inches tall at first, and much too small to keep warm by itself. But on what? The chick is too small to be taken off to the sea to catch food, and it can't be left behind on the ice. Well, deep down in the father penguin's throat, there's a pouch where he makes something a little like milk, and that's what he feeds to his hungry chick. The father penguin can make only enough of the milky stuff to feed his chick for a couple of weeks, but just as he's about to run out, a dot appears on the horizon. It gets closer and closer, and yes! It's Mom! She starts trumpeting hello, and the father penguin starts trumpeting hello, and the chick whistles. The racket goes on for hours, and it really does sound as if they're extremely pleased to see each other. Every adult penguin has his own special call, like a fingerprint. Chicks have their own special whistle, too. As soon as things have calmed down, the mother penguin is sick, right into her chick's mouth. Yuck, you may think. Yum, thinks the chick, and gobbles it all down. It's the mother's turn to take care of the chick now, while the father sets off to the sea for a well-earned meal of his own. About time, too. And that is the end of The Emperor's Egg, written by Martin Jenkins, illustrated by Jane Chapman. The second and final poem I'd like to share with you today, boys and girls, is called Baby Penguin. Baby Penguin. My dad just can't be beat. He helps me feel the warmth and heat. Boy, I have the very best seat, sitting upon my father's feet. The third book I'd like to read today is called Tacky the Penguin. This is written by Helen Lester and illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. This is a fun, whimsical story about an odd little penguin named Tacky. Tacky the Penguin by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. Tacky the Penguin by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. Sandpiper, Houghton Mifflin, Harcourt, Boston, New York. There once lived a penguin. His home was a nice icy land he shared with his companions. His companions were named Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect. His name was Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird. Every day, Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect greeted each other quietly and politely. Tacky greeted them with a hearty slap on the back and a loud, "What's happening?" Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tacky always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. His companions were graceful divers. Tacky liked to do splashy cannonballs. Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always sang pretty songs like Sunrise on the Iceberg. Tacky always sang songs like How many toes does a fish have? Tacky was an odd bird. One day the penguins heard the thump, thump, thump of feet in the distance. This could mean only one thing. Hunters had come. They came with maps and traps and rocks and locks, and they were rough and tough. As the thump, thump, thump drew closer, the penguins could hear the growly voices chanting, "We're gonna catch some pretty penguins, and we'll march 'em with the switch, and we'll sell 'em for $1 and get rich, rich, rich." Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly and perfect, ran away in fright. They hid behind a block of ice. Tacky stood alone. The hunters marched right up to him, chanting, "We're gonna catch some pretty penguins, and we'll march 'em with a switch, and we'll sell 'em for $1 and get rich, rich, rich." "What's happening?" blared Tacky, giving one hunter an especially hearty slap on the back. They grumbled, "We're hunting for penguins. That's what's happening." "Penguins?" said Tacky. "Do you mean those birds that march neatly in a row?" And he marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. The hunters looked puzzled. "Do you mean those birds that dive so gracefully?" Tacky asked. And he did a splashy cannonball. The hunters looked wet. "Do you mean those birds that sing such pretty songs?" Tacky began to sing, and from behind the block of ice came the voices of his companions, all singing as loudly and dreadfully as they could. "How many toes does a fish have? And how many wings on a cow? I wonder, yep, I wonder." The hunters could not stand the horrible singing. This could not be the land of the pretty penguins. They ran away with their hands clasped right over their ears, leaving behind their maps and traps and rocks and locks, and not looking at all rough and tough. Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly and perfect hugged Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird, but he was a very nice bird to have around. And that is the end of Tacky the Penguin, written by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. I loved reading all the books and poems about penguins today, boys and girls, and I hope you enjoyed listening to them as well. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, you can do so. Just tap the word subscribe right there, and that way you'll be sure to get all the latest videos with stories and poems from Reading with Mrs. Adams. Boys and girls, there's one fact I want you all to remember, and that is that you're important to God, and He loves you so much. So dare to dream the impossible, because all things are possible with God. I love you. Until next time, boys and girls. Goodbye.